Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Na janam na danam na sundarim kavitam va jagadishakamaye. Mama Janmani Janmanishware Bhavataha Bhaktihi Ahetuki Tvayim. Namaste, dear friends. In our journey of yoga, after understanding what yoga is and what it is not, we started going into each and every stream of yoga. After having understood that four major streams of yoga are there, the Jnana Yoga, Raja Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Karma Yoga, we have seen of what Jnana Yoga is, the yoga of the wisdom, the yoga of the intellect, and then we have seen in detail the yoga of the willpower, the yoga of the mind power, which is the Raja Yoga. And today we are here to go deep and dive and immerse ourselves in the ocean of Bhakti, which is Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga is called the science of emotions culture by our Guruji, Dr. H.R. Nagendraji, often called as a path of devotion, but he says it's a science of emotions culture. Devotion, when we say, it is the path of love, and love is the most important, powerful emotion out of all the human emotions that we have. And so through the channel of the love that we try to culture, not just control but culture and elevate ourselves to make it in the sublimative way than suppressing the emotions. We are sublimating the emotions and going in a positive way of culturing the emotions through the wonderful human emotions of love in the path of Bhakti Yoga. The other streams of yoga also, as we have seen, requires a lot of preparations. To do the Jnana Yoga, you have to have the Shamadamadi, the 6 eligibility criterias which was seen in the Jnana Yoga. And Raja Yoga also, you have to follow the Yama, Niyama, then do the asanas, pranayama, all those are required. Bhakti Yoga says that all of us have something common, the basic human emotion of love that we have. Children have the parental love towards the parents. Parents show the same, reciprocate the same towards the children. And between friends we share the love. And between the lovers, the beloved loves his or her lover. And we love our own possessions. I love my dress, I love my home, I love my pet, I love my car. So love is something which is common that we have towards anything in life. And why we have this basic instinct of love towards all of this is because there is a fundamental love of the Jivatma towards the Paramatma which is eternally present there. We have seen that yoga is the union of the Jivatma with the Paramatma, the individualized self with the universal consciousness is what we have seen. So here, through the path of love and surrender that we grow, as Vivekananda says, surrender is expansion. Through this love and surrender that we grow more and more in this path is what Bhakti Yoga is. And Bhakti, the very word Bhakti, which means devotion, has come from the root word of Bhaja Sevayam. Bhaja is to serve. And how do you serve or whom do you serve? Only one who you love. So love and service. Love is the emotion and service is the action which is expressed. This is the expression of this love that we have. And for this, the whole science of Bhakti Yoga that we see right from the Vedic scriptures, Upanishads do talk of this Bhakti Yoga. And then you see that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna talks of Bhakti Yoga predominantly in the 12th chapter. And in the whole of Bhagavad Gita, the 18 chapters that you have are divided into 6 of 3 sections. The first 6 chapters are supposed to deal with the yoga of the action, and then the next 6 that deals with the yoga of the devotion, the bhakti, and the last 6 the yoga of that intellect or wisdom, knowledge, jnana yoga. So the mid 6 are predominantly dealing with the Bhakti Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. The 12th chapter itself is named as Bhakti Yoga. That's where you see the aspect of this love of the human emotion is more expressed by Krishna himself, and he is also talking of who a true bhakta is. Who is the most favorite devotee? A bhakta for him is what Krishna is speaking in the Gita, the 12th chapter itself, in the Bhakti Yoga. And also, like the way we have seen the Sutra literature, the Jnana Yoga has Brahma Sutra its literature, and for Raja Yoga we have seen Patanjali Yoga Sutra as a reference literature, the aphorisms, the compilation of all essential teachings of Raja Yoga as compiled by Patanjali. We have for Bhakti Yoga, Narada Bhakti Sutra, which is the compilation of all essential teachings of Bhakti, which is seen in the Upanishads and the epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, and in all the Puranas. And finally, you see that Narada had compiled all these essential teachings in the Narada Bhakti Sutra. So, this becomes the most important scripture, of course, for Bhakti Yoga. And one of the Puranas, out of the 18 Puranas that we have, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the last, which was composed by, which was written by Veda Vyasa as inspired by his Guru Narada to elaborately bring out the essential aspects of Bhakti itself. So, Bhagavatam is one of the most epoch-making Purana for literature for the magnum opus for Bhakti Yoga, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. So, based on all this reference, we try to understand what Bhakti Yoga is. So, initially we understand that human emotions are having both positive and negative emotions. The negative emotions, which are called Asuri Sampad by Krishna, the demonic vices that we have, and the positive emotions that we have, the Daivi Sampad, he calls it as the good qualities that we have. And always there is a Mahabharata war, as Mahatma Gandhi said, Mahabharata war is not something which happened elsewhere long back, it's something which happens every day, every time in our mind. Our mind is the biggest Mahabharata. And between the good qualities that we have, which are limited, the 5, and the bad things that we have, the bad forces, the negative impact is of 100 like the Kauravas. So, between those there is always a tug of war which happens, right, between the Asuri Sampad and Daivi Sampad. Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya, Daivi Sampad, the good qualities, positive emotions elevate us, whereas the negative will put us down. Daivi Sampad Vimokshaya. Nibandaya Asuri Mataha, the Asuri Sampad, the demonic vices will put you into the bondage, whereas the good qualities will elevate you. And out of all these good qualities that we have, love, the basic emotion is love, the prema that we have, but that when we have as a selfish things, the love that you show for expecting something in return becomes a selfish love. When unconditionally when you share this love without anything return that you expect, it becomes a selfless love. The selfish love is kama, the selfless love is prema. Even in the family bondage, you see, when the mother loves a child, not expecting anything that he is going to come and take care of me in the future, or the child shows the love because it needs some support or care from the mother. It is unconditional love which is there. Of course, eventually it can become a conditional love. Today, that's what we see in the families. There are a lot of breaks which is happening because there is a selfishness which is involved. Why are husband and wife not able to be together? Because they are not loving for the love's sake. They are loving, expecting something back in return, a security or a financial guarantee or something that we expect. And when that doesn't happen, there is a breakout which is happening today. But here Bhakti Yoga talks of this unconditional love that we have. So, when you have the expectation and then when you love, so it becomes the kama, the desire that you have. And when you add, tyaga to this kama, tyaga is the sacrifice. So, when you have this, unconditional love, the patriotic, saints of this country, for this motherland, they gave their life, not expecting anything back in return. They fought for this country because of the unconditional love that they had, the niswartha prema that we had. So, that becomes prema. So, the selfish love that we have, kama, plus tyaga, sacrifice. When you love somebody, you would like to give them anything. Today, there is no giving, there is only taking. That is where the breakouts are happening. So, you give what the best that you have. We have umpteen examples that we have, the sacrifices that people have made for the love that they have towards the God, the Ishtadevata, or towards the motherland, the country, or even towards the beloved, So, when you love, for the sake of the love that you can sacrifice, the tyaga, it makes into prema, which is the selfless love. It is that unconditional love that you have. And with that, when you add surrender to the will of the divine. We understand in the Ishvara Pranidhana, in the Niyama, in the Raja Yoga itself, we have understood there is a higher will of the Lord which ultimately prevails. Trinamabi na chalati tena vina, not even a blade of grass moves without his will, right? So that's what the devotee understands, that I am a part of the divine, whereas divine is so magnificent, its will is so big and great, magnanimous, that the power of the divine overrules ultimately. And I understand me as a human being, my limitation, and I understand the power of my divine, which is the great. And he surrenders to the divine will. As Krishna tells in the Gita, ultimately he says, Mam ekam sharanam vraja. You surrender yourself to the divine will. Whichever form of the God that you can take, divinity is one, but it can take different form, right? The same water takes different forms. It takes, when it is solidified, when you give more chillness, it becomes ice. When you give more heat, it becomes a vapor, or in its natural state, it is water that flow. The same substance of water can take different shapes. Similarly, that ultimate reality, that Paramatma, can take different forms. He can become Krishna, he can become Shiva, he can become Allah, Jesus, Buddha, whichever form that he wants. But the power, the truth ultimate is one, that Ishvara. And it can have different names. The same water, in English it is water, in Tamil it is Tannir, in Kannada it is Neeru, in Telugu it is Neelu, in Hindi it is Pani, in Sanskritam it is Jalam. I don't know in Dubai, in Urdu, and in Arabic what you call. So in different languages are different, but then scientist says it is ultimately, no sir, it is aqua or it is H2O. But it is the same which is called in different names. So similarly, that Sachidananda Parabrahman, that Paramatma is called Paramatma, Parameshwar, Para, Sachidananda, by different names that we call. So he can have different forms, he can have different names, he can be he or she or it. It all depends, because it's ultimately that infinite Parabrahman that we call it as. So here, so you can channelize your emotions towards this Paramatma by surrendering to the will. So the surrender is Sharanagati, which makes it to become the ultimate bhakti. And when you show this bhakti, this emotion, this human love, you convert into a divine love by looking into God in different ways. So we have the 5 ways of expressing this love. It's called the Pancha Bhavas. When you have the parental love towards the God, it's called Vatsalya, which means the parental love. Looking at God as your father or mother, or looking as God as your son or a daughter. So you can share this emotion, which hundreds and hundreds of devotees have done this. Even today there are many who practice this. Looking at God as your child and enjoying the pastimes of the God, like Krishna, Rama, and all, we have the Vatsalya. And looking at God as your friend is Sakhya. Looking as God as the God himself and worshipping him in the divine state is Shanta Bhava. And looking at God as your master, your Yajaman, and you become as humble servant, and in Dasya Bhava, like we have Kabir Das, Tulsi Das, Purandara Das, Ramadas, many devotees who have taken this Dasya Bhava and serving the Lord in this way of service, which is Dasya Bhava, and ultimately looking at God as a beloved. We see Krishna and Radha and the gopis, and this is a wonderful emotion ultimately, which has everything in it. When you look at God as your beloved, you can be a mother at some times, you can be a friend at some time, you can be a master, you can be a servant, you can be looking at him as God himself and your beloved ultimately. So Madhurya Bhava has everything encompassed in it. So these are the 5 bhavas of Bhakti Yoga. First and foremost, you can take it to be the Shanta, which is looking at God as God himself and you being a devotee. Bhagavan Bhakta. Second, Vatsalya, where parent and a child, or a child and a parent, vice versa. And then Dasya, looking at him as the Yajaman, the master, and you being the servant, or a guru and a Sishya, Dasya. And then Sakhya, the friendship between the 2 parallel friends, and Madhurya, the love between the beloveds. So 5 bhavas of bhakti that we see. And how do you express in all these bhavas? You have the 9 way of expressing the love, which is called Navavida Bhakti, as propounded by Prahlada, the greatest devotee that the world has seen. A child with conviction towards the Lord, that God is omnipresent, he is everywhere, is what the conviction that this Prahlada had. And for his sake, that God came as Narsimha. It's a famous Indian legendary story that we all know. And even abroad also, it's well known as the story of the love of Prahlada that he had. He could see everywhere the Lord's presence. And this child Prahlada has taught us the 9 way of showing this devotion, the 9 steps for enjoying this devotional aspect. This love towards the divine is Shravanam. The first is to hear. As we saw in Jnana Yoga, Shravanam is the first there also. Bhakti also, you feel the devotion, the love more when you hear more about the chosen deity. If you are having this love towards Krishna or Rama or Buddha or Jesus or any form of the God, you would wish to hear about, like even in our normal human life, anybody whom we love, we try to hear about them more, their glory more. Tell me more about them. Tell me more about them. You try to gather more information about them, the facts and figures, right? It could be a famous sports star. It could be a film star. You would like to hear more about them. So that is Shravanam. And then it is Shravanam, then Kirtanam. Once you have heard, you wish to speak more about them. You wish to talk their glory. That's where compositions, beautiful songs like Meera's bhajans or Namdev's abhangs. It could be in any language, any songs. In Telugu, we have the Tyagaraja Kirtan. In Kannada, Purandaradasa. So all devotees have composed songs, the Kirtanam that you see, and Smaranam. When you keep hearing and singing, the remembrance of the Lord is always there with you. Smaranam is to remember. Archanam, Smaranam. Then you start doing Archana, doing the glorifying the Lord by offering the puja and everything. Archanam, Pada Sevanam is to do the Seva. In wonderful close association, you always feel like offering something, the best that you can do as a seva that you do. The service is very important, and it's not just to the deity. God is present everywhere. His presence is omnipresent. So seeing His presence everywhere, as Vivekananda said, you have to look at the Lord everywhere and serve Him. That is the Pada Sevanam. So Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, the worship, Vandanam. Again, complete surrender to Him, expressing your gratitude to what He has provided. Every time, think of the good things that you got because of the divine support. When you were really in need, you had that help coming in some way or other. It could be your neighbor who helped you, the friend who helped you, your relative who helped you, your teacher who helped you. But that is that divine unseen force which is working through them. So this attitude of gratitude, expressing it is what is Vandanam. So we call it as Vandanarpanam also. The attitude of gratitude, which is very important, is Vandanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam. Again, service in the attitude of being a servant, the Dasyam, the service that you do. And again, service is not restricted to only to the deity that you see. His presence is everywhere, omnipresent. So the serve thy neighbors, love thy neighbors, as the Bible said. Service to everybody, the fellow human beings, even that becomes, the Dasya Bhava of looking at the divine presence in fellow human beings in the creation and serve the creation. Service to the nature, nurturing the nature is also a seva, the Dasya Bhava that you can show. And then Sakhyam. Then through this you get to this communion, a wonderful union that you start feeling that the Lord is not present elsewhere but is within me. You start feeling His presence within you and develop an eternal friendship, a Mitra Bhava, and then that becomes blossomed as the wonderful divine love of Atma Nivedanam. You surrender yourself completely to the Lord and you feel that you are not different, you are not separate from the Lord. That Atma Nivedanam, complete surrender of yourself to the Lord, is Atma Nivedanam. The Navavida Bhakti, the 9 ways of expressing this love towards the Lord or the divine, the Paramatma, is Shravanam, to hear, Kirtanam, to sing, Smaranam, to remember, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, to serve, and then Archanam, to glorify, Vandanam, to show the gratitude of, the attitude of gratitude, the thanksgiving in the form of the offerings that you do, the worship you do, and Vandanam, then Dasyam again, the being, as a humble servant to the Lord and serving His presence everywhere, and the Sakhyam, the friendship, eternal friendship that you maintain with the Lord, the companionship that you enjoy, and then Atma Nivedanam, the total surrender that you express yourself completely to Him, that you are everything, Tvameva Sarvam Mamadeva Deva, offering yourself, that Sharanagati, Anyata Sharanam Nasti, Tvameva Sharanam Mama, you are my everything. That complete surrender that you Sharanagati that you do is Atma Nivedanam. When you offer yourself to Him, you starts feeling this oneness. Who is a true devotee? A devotee is somebody who doesn't see the Lord, the deity, only in this form or in His image, but who sees His presence everywhere. Sarvabhuteshi yaf pashyet Bhagavan bhavanatmanaha Bhutani bhagavatyatmani yesha bhagavadottamaha. He is a Bhagavadottama, a true devotee, a Uttama devotee who sees his presence everywhere, like Prahlada could see. Even from the mountain when he was rolled down, he could see the presence of the Lord there, so he was rescued. In the fire he was put, he could see the Lord's presence there, so he could be rescued. In the water, Jale Vishnuho, Stale Vishnuho, everywhere the Lord is present. Shiva is omnipresent everywhere. In every cell, every atom is what a devotee would experience. Feeling the presence, the omnipresence of the Lord, as Namdev, a great devotee, saw the presence of his chosen deity Vitala in a dog. And Ekanath saw it even in a ass, in a Gada, a donkey, and everybody could see the presence of God and everywhere. That is what a true devotee is. And okay, seeing the God, what do you say? You serve them, love them. You can serve the God by serving the fellow human beings. This is the wonderful science of Bhakti Yoga, through which your emotions, the human emotions which are otherwise fighting, there's a tug of war between the human emotions, the positive and negative, gets channelized through this way of serving, this way of loving, this way of expressing this unconditional love to the entire Jagat, which is Bhagavan's creation, which is presence. You see and then offer that becomes a beautiful path of the Bhakti Yoga. So it's one that which easily we can all follow. The more important aspect in Bhakti Yoga to feel the presence of the Lord and to glorify is to sing the Kirtanam. Through the Kirtanam, every other aspects can also be joined. That's why Kirtan is very important in Bhakti Yoga. Like Asana, Pranayama, Dhyana is very important in the Raja Yoga. Shravanam, Mananam, etc. is very important in Jnana Yoga. In Bhakti Yoga, Kirtanam, when you sing, you are hearing also, you are singing also. Shravanam, Kirtanam is involved. You are remembering the Lord that time, and through that you develop the sense of gratitude and now service to the Lord you develop. So everything happens through the channel of the Kirtan. So it's very important to sing the glory of the Lord in Bhakti Yoga, and through that meditation can also, Dhyanam can also happen, the Rupa Dhyanam. Think of the visual form of the Lord, the chosen deity, sing his glory through the Nama Sankirtana and meditate upon him. Then this divine consciousness retains always the sense of love, enhances in you more and more deeper. Bhakti Yoga is a part of the heart, like Jnana Yoga is a part of the head, or Karma Yoga is a part of the hand, or Raj Yoga is a part of the mind, the willpower. Bhakti Yoga is a part of the heart. You should feel and enjoy the presence of Lord. Come, let's also experience the presence of Lord through this practice of Bhakti Yoga. Minutes of practice that we shall do. Try to close your eyes, sit straight. Just visualize that your human body is a beautiful temple of the Lord. Think of any temple, a dwelling place of the divine, a church, a mosque, a gurudwara, or a mandir that comes to your mind. Just think of it. And try to visualize and superimpose this place of worship on your body. Feel that my body is a temple, the gurudwara, the mosque, the church. And try to go deep within this temple to the sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagudi, which is the heart. Feel an effulgent light on the heart, the midst of the heart center, the Hridaya Madhya. And try to visualize a beautiful image of the divine form that is so close to you. It could be Shiva, Krishna, Rama, Hanuman, Buddha, Mahavir, Guru Nanak, Jesus, Allah, any form of the Lord, if not just the Om, which is the formless form of the Lord. Or just you want to maintain the divine light, try to retain the divine light and just keep on visualizing the light. It could be the form of your Guru, the Master who teaches to you the divine wisdom. In the midst of the heart, try to contemplate on this form, visualize this form, and try to associate the name, the Nama, with the Rupa. Mentally chant. It could be Shiva, Krishna, Rama, Narayana, Buddha, any of the Nama, the mantra that you associate yourself with. Feel a sense of devotion, the love to that chosen deity. Try to think of one incident where you felt the divine touch which transformed your life. It could be a help that came in the right time through some way or other, but it is that God, that Paramatma who has done this to you. With an attitude of gratitude, try to recollect that. Feel the sense of gratitude, thankfulness towards the divine form with humbleness. He is the universal preceptor who is controlling, who has created, who is sustaining, and who is taking care of this entire world. So let's remember that Paramatman and do some kirtan for a while. You may just repeat after me when I give a pause. He Jagadrata Vishwavidata, हे सुख शांति निकेतन है, हे सुख शांति निकेतन है, दीन के बंधु प्रेम के सिंधु, दीन के बंधु प्रेम के सिंधु, दुख दरिद्र विनाशन है, दुख दरिद्र विनाशन है, हे जगद्राता विश्वविदाता, हे सुख शांति निकेतन है, हे सुख शांति निकेतन है, हे सुख शांति निकेतन है. And tell to the Lord that you are everything for me. I surrender myself to you completely, O Lord. Hands together, Namaskara Mudra. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva. O Lord, you are mother and father to me. And I see you in my biological father and mother as well. Looking at God as your parent should reflect back as seeing that God in your parents. That is bhakti. Tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva. Looking at God as your relative and your friend. And that should reflect back in looking at your relatives as the divine manifestation and looking at all your friends as that divine manifestation. Tvameva vidya dravinam tvameva. You are that ultimate knowledge. You are that vidya. You are dravinam, that materialistic wealth as well. And look at divinity in what you learn and what you earn as well. He is Saraswati, Lakshmi. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. You are everything to me, O Lord. You are everything to me, and you are in everything that I see here around. I surrender to Thy completely. Pray to the Lord. Pray to your Ishtadevata. Pray to your Master. Pray to your Guru. Ask whatever you want. Ask and it shall be given unto you. Shraddhavan lapate jnanam. Ask the wish that you wish to fulfill in your life. Pray. Prayer is when you talk to the Lord, and meditate. Meditation is when the Lord talks to you, you hear. Just 1 minute of silence and you hear the divine inner voice guiding you. Try to retain this divine form in the midst of your heart always as you do your day-to-day life activities. Feel the divine presence. Namaskara Mudra. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rub your palms. Feel the warmness in your palm. Take your palms to your eyes. Open your eyes and look into the palm. Namaste. Even looking into the palm is a divine act of devotion. Divinity is in your heart and it gets manifested to the heart, to the hand. When you want to feed somebody, you take the hand and you feed. When you want to bless somebody, you take your hand and you bless. When you want to lift somebody who has fallen down, you take your hand and lift them. Right? So if you want to give them some money, you take your hand and give them. So every action of divinity is manifested through the hand, but the inspiration comes from your heart. That's where in yoga, whenever we finish, we start, as soon as you get up in the morning, you look into your hand first, because the divinity in your heart gets manifested to the hand through the action that we do, the good works that we do. So it's very important to do that. May we all continue to have the spirit of this devotion, this love, this emotions culture of Bhakti Yoga in everything that we do. Whatever we do, let's offer that as an offering to the divine. Then every action that we do will become an aspect of Bhakti Yoga. Namaste.